We have been very, very clear with our officials, with Canadian Armed Forces, with all our partners. The goal of Canada right now is to get as many people out as possible, as quickly as possible. I have tremendous confidence in our commanders on the ground, in the operational capacities of the Canadian Armed Forces to do what is necessary to help as many people as possible, taking into account the unpredictability and the risks of the situation. I will not be commenting on specific operational issues because the folks on the ground have that in hand, but they have the necessary authorizations. I say everybody is working incredibly hard. I can understand how difficult the situation is for family members here at home, for folks stuck in the chaotic situation in Afghanistan. We started bringing flights out in early August. We've continued to step up our extremely ambitious goals. We're going to be welcoming over 20,000 Afghan refugees in the coming months and years to make sure that we're helping as many people as possible. And right now on the ground, whether it's the Canadian forces, whether it's diplomats and consular officials, whether it's people working around the globe to get people out of Afghanistan, we are working every step of the way.
What's going on in Afghanistan, of course, is incredibly heartbreaking, and people have been seeing those images. And as I reflect more and more on this, I'm thinking about what Canada can do and what Canada should have done. I've been thinking about the fact that, maybe the fact that Justin Trudeau called an election might have impacted his ability to plan for the release or the evacuation of our allies in Afghanistan, and I'm worried about that. I'm thinking that maybe more could have been done. But right now, what Canadians want to see happen and what I want to see happen, anyone that put their lives on the line to help our forces, anyone that worked to support our troops has to be evacuated. We have to do whatever we can to secure their safety. These are people that we promised we would have their back, and we can't go back on our word.
The federal government is in an election mode and should be actually focused on COVID, on the fires here in British Columbia, and the terrible situation in Afghanistan. What I find most frustrating is the fact that Mr. Trudeau squandered 5 years, squandered the last 6 months when veterans groups, NGOs were telling Mr. Trudeau and his team that there is going to be chaos, there's going to be risk in Afghanistan. We have to get people out of there. We've been trying to do that for many years, but like everything, Mr. Trudeau is never out in front as a leader, trying to make sure he's tackling the issues affecting our country. He's always scrambling, always playing catch up. I will be out in front to make sure I stand up for our citizens, our interests, and our positions and values in the world. I think that's what Canadians want to see. I would act. I would lead. I have faith in our Canadian Armed Forces because I've served alongside and within our Canadian Armed Forces. We have the equipment and the work with our allies that could get our people out of there, get them out of harm's way in Afghanistan if there was political will and leadership. But as I said, with Mr. Trudeau, we often get announcements, tweets, and never any follow-up in leadership. And that's just one of the many things I think is leading to a desire for change in this election, and I'm asking for people's trust to provide that leadership.